So I figured I'd go live since I got some time to get to work because I got here too early. Beat the traffic though. But let us understand something. If there's anything that we need to understand in life, the world we live in affects all, right? The powers and principalities are over us all. So we think anyway. Or so they think, I should say. But when we really look at the bigger picture, right, and being that I have children, right, and I want my children to have a bright future and a safe future, but how could we ever do that? By changing our hearts. And not changing your heart by what you see on the outside. Changing your heart on how it makes you feel on the inside. We're all in this together, no matter what side of the fence you stand on. We all go through trials and tribulations. We all go through ups and downs. And we signed up for it, believe it or not. Because we choose to just support the powers and principalities of this world. That's why Jesus said things like you have to die to this world. That's why Islam has a similar message. That's why Buddha had a similar message, and the Buddhists and the Hindus had a similar message. Like, we have to come to truly understand we are in this together. And now, just on the premise of the three Abrahamic religions, which is Israel, Jews, Islam, Muslims, and Christians and Catholics, I guess you could throw in there, sort of, being that they're divided. Either way, in all those religions, there's a common element because they all follow the same history, same genealogy, same bloodline, no matter how you look at it. So, what is kind of so hard for us to understand in that sense? That maybe though we fall short, we're falling short together, not recognizing we're in this together. It's like sometimes the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around sometimes in life is the fact that no one else is seeking kind of what I'm seeking. Now, I'm not saying there's no one out there seeking what I'm seeking. There's more than a few people out there seeking truth and coming to realize the truth, right? But they're finding that truth within themselves, not from a book, not from another person, right? And then there's those that learn from the books and the other people and take their words for it, and they fight against those that just want to see truth for what it truly is. Because though everyone could be wrong, everyone really can't be right in their perception of things. See, I'm working on this new song, and if I could get it off, I'll sing it right now. Right, so I look around at you know what? It's just like, because my music says what I need to say, um, in a different way than how I say it, you know? Look around at the world today, and I see so many of us lost in misery, dealing with the stress of every day. Hard working 9 to 5 with no time to play. Seems like we're going through life with our lights out, running through the darkness, not trying to find ourselves. Is one world shared each and every day? If life is so short, why do we bother with hate? How can we see each other but not as ourselves? How does one think they're perfect but another's destined for hell? Do you believe in miracles? When you find yourself with nowhere to go, gotta face your soul. I look around at our leaders today. Past few years around the world disarray. Make a mess and determine our runaway. Without a change of heart, next in line's gonna be the same way. Seems like we're going through life with our lights out, running through the darkness, not trying to find ourselves. It's one world shared each and every day. If life is so short, why do we bother with hate? How can we see each other but not as ourselves? How does one think they're perfect but another's destined for hell? Do you believe in miracles? When you got yourself with nowhere to go, gotta face your foe. I look around at the world today, and I see my sisters and brothers of every race. They realize the light and life within us all. Together in love we stand, but divided we fall. Turn your lights on. So, if you got ears to hear, you heard it. And I love everyone unconditionally. And I know nothing can change unless we change ourselves to come to understand that we need love for one another. Because in our current situation, we're divided in so many ways. And most of it is hidden behind laws and policies and job descriptions. And, it's like kind of like the person at Walmart that asks you for your receipt. They get paid to stand there and ask you for their receipt, right? And their job description is to ask people for their receipts, depending upon whatever their manager or boss man told them on this is who you check and this is who you don't check, right? Most of the time it's not on a racist level, so to speak, right? Because most people aren't even going for that interaction. It's almost like when you see on the news all this, blow up of like, some racist stuff, right? But you never go to Walmart and see this firsthand, right? You never go out in the world and see that firsthand, so to speak. Right now, I'm not saying, and you know what? maybe I am saying, like, we don't really see the stuff that they be portraying on the news. And so many of us sit here and say, the news is fake, they're lying, it's scripted, but then they don't believe it themselves because you listen to some type of aspect of the news. No matter how through TikTok, through YouTube, through Instagram, through anything, you get little clips and bits of something that's gonna spark you like, oh shit, Russia's doing what? Or this one's doing that, or that one's doing that. Like, right? We got to understand the program. The programming is in the repetition, and the most honest thing I can say is our world is built on suffering, and it's kind of hard to understand that. And in an extreme level, is like if somebody really came up with a cure to cancer, how many people would be out of work? Like, really think about that. Really think about that, and then ask yourself, what would be the incentive to stop? To want that cure for everyone, because then it would hurt you financially, right? It would hurt you living wise because you're in a world with powers and principalities that say you have to pay to live. But then none of them had anything to do with your creation, and especially the light and light within you that help, that the reason why you breathe and most of your bodily functions does what it does without you thinking about it, right? The inside you, not the outside you. The outside of you reflects who you think you are inside of you. And most of us don't even know ourselves. We look in the mirror and see the perception of the world and what we think the world thinks of us. We don't really look in the mirror and see ourselves for who ourselves are. Unless you're opening up your truth, unless you're opening up and finding that truth within you and realizing your light and life within you. Right? And all these other things in our world don't want you to come to understand this. And that's something else that's hard to believe. How people don't see it. Right? And I don't care what religion it is, it's pointing you to something and someone. But yet it's telling you that that something and someone that you seek only can be found within you. And then they put a little extra in there and say, oh, no, only when you go to the pastor, right? In the Catholic Church, you go and confess all your sins in the little booth with the father dude. Like, come on. Seriously? You can't, you have no desire to want to know your source of life. And that's what it all boils down to, right? You either believe in the source of life of what religion is telling you. You either believe in the source of life of what science is telling you. You could believe in the source of life of what anything is telling you. But nothing in which you're listening to had anything to do with you being you. And that's like the bottom line, right? That's why you got to come to know yourself. And coming to know yourself, like me, right? For example, right? You got to give a testimony sometimes, right? To prove that it works for you, right? And in my life, I like there's things that I've done, I've gone through, I guess willingly and unwillingly, and maybe where some would call them regrets or mistakes. And I look back at those things, right? There's times in my life that I've looked back at my past life or my past, and I say, man, I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for all those things happening in the way that they happened. Okay. Now, recently, I just started doing music again, I should say, right? For the last year. And like really putting my music out there on Spotify and all the music platforms and stuff, even on YouTube. So give it a listen. Um, but long time ago, I was in the music as well. I did a really good song. I had a couple opportunities. And I think, looking back, I even had a song that I wrote that someone wanted to buy from me for $25,000. And I had looked back sometimes and I say in that moment, if I would have signed the paper or went this direction, where would my life be? At that time, I didn't have kids. I didn't have nothing going on in my life. Actually, in that time, I made myself homeless. Not that I fell on hard times. It's just I was like, that's me. I was done with the world. Like there's nothing appealing here for me in essence. It's like I like it's almost like we have so many examples, right, of how life could be lived. And in those examples, we can see where they end. Because it ain't like there's anything new under the sun. And that's like truth, right? We can't assume, we can't, when it comes to anything scripture wise, no matter what religion, right? We can't sit here and just assume that we could trust the sources on which this all came from. And more to my point of what I'm saying is, if you really look deeply into Christianity and stuff like that, and any religion really, and you'll find a lot of pop-ups of the early 1800s, maybe late 1700s, right? And then you might find some stuff in like 1200, and things of like, you'll see things, but you'll see a repetition. But you'll see at the time, like in the early 1800s, late 1700s, anything like most of our information is fresh. That's what I'm saying. Right? There was a perspective before the perspective in which the perspective came from. And then that perspective was from a perspective in which that perception came from. Like it goes on and on and on. Right? And if our world wasn't like it is today, how can we validate anything? Right? If Paul or Peter and they sat there and wrote their letters, right? They wrote their letters. One letter. One letter that they wrote. And then it went to the person in which they wrote it to, right? Are we to assume that at that moment it was the most popular thing in the world? Because if we do assume that, they must have had a printing press to get the information out there. They must have had copy machines to copy this letter. Like, was there only one letter floating around? I don't know if you see where I'm coming from, but I'm just saying, like that's why you have to look within yourself, because there's nothing truly outside of us that could ever prove what we can find inside of us. Because nothing outside of us made the inside of us. So I just want us to wake up to the truth within ourselves. And I know that day's gonna come, you know. I would love it to come sooner than later, but throughout history they've wanted that too. Like there's one thing I think anyway, it's only my opinion. But the only thing we could learn from history is that none of them got it right. And most of the things we do has been being done for millennia. Taxation, stuff in that nature, a government or a ruling body, all that good stuff, right? It's always been. We've heard about conquerors and nations against nations, and nations falling and nations rising. We got new names for everything, but it's still the same old place. We got, you know, DNA that traces back to forever ago. It's like crazy, you know? Right before there was certain things or people groups, there were other people groups where those people groups didn't exist, because those people groups exist only because the other people groups did exist. It's kind of crazy, you know. Almost every race has a light skin and a dark skin. That's kind of crazy, and no one, no one, no one sees the what. I might have a different meaning for it, but what is that? Systematic racism. My definition for that is they purposely cause situations to bring a divide based upon the color of your skin. But if you're gonna tell me that there's not like a light-skinned Mexican that looks like a white person and a dark-skinned Mexican that may look like a black person, or a Brazilian, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Jamaican even, though they may have some dominant sides, you know what I'm saying, within, but there's still one. There's still one of the opposite complexion. I'm just saying, you know, and then, you know, a lot of interracial stuff going on. That's awesome because I'm a mixed breed, so got to keep that flowing, you know. We're just like, we don't know our origin, our true origins, right? And most of the origins that we think we know was like a Romeo and Juliet story, right? It was two families divided, and then the children of the family ended up hooking up, and it either caused, you know, generational beef to, you know, people coming to peace, um, all types of things, you know. Uh, Either way, we gotta look for it for what it is, right? People are only gonna try to divide us anyway, because, like I said in that song, together in love we stand, and divided we fall. And as long as we keep looking at each other in these perceptions, these tainted ass perceptions of all these people that came before us and all the world leaders that use that to keep us divided, what are you gonna do? Right? We're so divided. Check this out. We're so divided that I recently visited um well no. So we're so divided. I'm gonna bring it to like a basic level. We're so divided that in prison, right? In prison, there's like a blood phone, a crip phone, you know, whatever Spanish is ruling up in there, Spanish phone, a white phone, a black phone, right? We're so divided that even in prison, when we in prison, all the prisoners should have the same opposition, and that would be the law. But yet, they're so divided within their confinement of the law, and the law knows that can't keeps them in control. Hear what I'm saying? Even in a prison situation, a whole bunch of criminals, from, I guess, parking ticket violators to fucking murderers, are in prison, and they're divided in prison as a unified criminal base. They're divided. They're doing, you know, listen, that's how deep our division goes. If you don't understand what I'm saying there, listen. You will, though. You will. Sooner or later, everyone wakes up. Sooner or later, everyone wakes up. And if you don't believe that, then you got to question what you believe in. Okay? You definitely got to question what you believe in. Because I know my creator didn't create me to die. He didn't create, or it, whatever you want to call it. The source of life did not bring me into existence for nothing. And if I'm going to end up in a tormented place for the rest of my life, being that the world is already torment enough, suffering enough, pain enough, death enough, diseased enough, polluted enough, that's besides the fact. But now, I don't believe in a creator. I believe in a creator, the source of life that brought me to existence to learn who I am. Because only in that way, in that experience, in my life's journey, in my path, can I ever learn the true essence of loving all as the Father loves us all. Because if we didn't have a loving creator, I'm pretty sure everything would be wiped away. Right? And that was already attempted in the Old Testament, but yet the evil still exists. Come on, figure it out, my friends. I love you unconditionally. I'm going to go head over to work. Now I might be a little late, but it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, share, follow. Follow me on my music platforms. It's Living Proof Nakia, Livin Proofnakia. And then follow me on this. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos coming up. I'm just trying to get everything situated in life. So I love you unconditionally. Wholeness and oneness to you always and forever. Anyone that watched this, I was really looking at that. Thank you for watching. And peace out.